So let's take a closer look at Ghiberti's final set of doors. Here they are. Now, these are the doors that face the cathedral. So these are the front doors to the baptistry, and they face the front of the cathedral. Think of them like the main doors. And the title I've given you here, Gates of Paradise. Well, that is a nickname title for these doors because, well, they're beautiful and they're bronze, gilded in gold, and legend has it that Michelangelo, who we'll talk about later in this class, Michelangelo, who lived in Florence at the time, walked past these doors all the time, and he said, "These are so beautiful. This must be what the gates of paradise look like, the gates of heaven." And so they got the nickname the Gates of Paradise. Now, what we see here are 10 panels, and they are stories or narratives from the Old Testament of the Bible. Here they stand on when they're in situ at the baptistry. Now, obviously I want you to go to Florence, and I want you to see all the artworks that we're going to be talking about in this class and take pictures, take selfies with them, send them to me. And I just want to tell you that the doors that are installed currently are official replicas. The original doors by Ghiberti are now housed in the Cathedral Museum. The reason is because, well, to protect it from looters, people suck sometimes, and also because in the 1960s there was a terrible flood that came through the Arno River, flooded its banks and heavily damaged some of the bottom panels. So to protect it and keep it from prying fingers, the originals are now housed in a museum, and these are official copies that are on the doors. But obviously I still want you to go see them, and I want you to take selfies with them. Like, this is one of my former students. And I think it's helpful for you to see or get a sense of scale, how big these artworks are. Now, these panels, like I said, there's 10 panels, but we're not going to look at all 10. We're going to focus in on one panel, this one here. So this is our next artwork. The artist Ghiberti. The title of this panel is Jacob and Esau, and it's one panel from the Gates of Paradise. All right. Now, in this panel, we see the story of Isaac and Rebecca, who for 20 years, husband and wife, for 20 years had no baby, and then they receive news of a miracle, that they will not only have one child, but two. Twin boys. The two boys are born. The first is Esau, and the second born is Jacob. Now, Esau is more interested in hunting and roaming around and avoiding study, whereas Jacob is more comfortable at home and dedicated to religious studies. Now, as part of their Jewish culture, there is a sacred birthright as head of the family that is typically bestowed or blessed on the firstborn. And Isaac, who favors his son Esau, tells Esau to go for a hunt. So there is Esau going for the hunt. And when he returns, Isaac has promised to bestow the head of the family blessing upon him. But Esau is not a good leader, and he does not want that responsibility. Now, Rebecca, who favors her second-born son Jacob, conspires with him and comes to Isaac, who is now half blind, comes to Isaac disguised as Esau and receives the blessing as the head of the family. So that's what we're seeing happening here. So yes, it is a very long story to tell in one panel, but the way that Ghiberti organizes this is using linear perspective. Now, notice when I was saying the tale of Isaac and Jacob and Esau and Rebecca, I didn't mention anything about buildings, and yet Ghiberti has placed this massive structure here. That massive structure is there to organize the story. First, it sets apart the beginning where Rebecca receives word she will be pregnant. In the background, we see Rebecca on the birthing bed. And in the foreground, we see Isaac telling Esau to go for the hunt and we see the conspiring of Rebekah and Jacob, and then finally the blessing of Isaac. The lines of perspective, do you see them there? Here, let me help you out. Now do you see them? Ah, okay. The lines of perspective give us enough space or enough visual breathing room to compress these elements into one square panel. And he's using linear perspective. Not an attempt at perspective, but a clear vanishing point, orthogonal lines leading to it, and the architecture is around to help create a foundation for the story. Also, look at that fantastic architecture. It's like big, grand archways and columns. We have these capitals here. It's very classical. This looks like architecture from the ancient Roman world, because this is a Renaissance after all, right? And at this time, the theory on art was that these grand people, important people in these important stories, like biblical figures in a story from the Bible, if you are to depict them, they should be depicted in scenes with equally grand scale, grand buildings. So this grand architecture is appropriate for the importance of these grand figures. Keep that in mind, because we're going to see this idea of important people need fancy and important architecture. We're going to see that again and again, and it's something that is firmly established within the rules of the Renaissance. One more thing. I know I said I want you to go to Florence, and I do, but if you cannot get to Florence right now, guess what? Can you get to San Francisco? Because Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, which here, this is just a view from the outside. It's on California Street. It's up a really, really steep hill, so I don't recommend trying to walk there. I recommend taking a bus or the cable car. Cable car drops off right in front of here. I want you to look at this fantastic structure. It was built in the 1920s, 1928, and it's this new Gothic revival. So it looks like a Gothic structure. It's not from the Gothic period. And then I want you to go like, oh wow, that's so cool. And then I want you to go up these stairs, and the doors of Grace Cathedral are exact replicas of Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise.